Welcome back, and today I'm going to make pozole, which is Mexican stew, and I make that with pork and chilies and hominy and onion, garlic, Mexican gray squash, and let's get started. I'm going to start washing up my peppers and my squash over here at the sink. So I got poblano chilies. That's the first type of chili I'm going to use. I'm just going to rinse them off. I got 4 of them. I like a lot of peppers. Set those aside. I'm just going to try to kind of wash up everything first and then start preparing stuff. So these come in all different sizes. So I didn't think one would be enough because I'm going to make a big pot of stew. So I'm just going to rinse this off. I'm going to throw it in here. Now, I don't know if you can get these at every single store. So if you can't get these, you don't have to put this in the stew. A lot of people don't. I really enjoy the flavor. Okay, let's get started with the poblano chilies. I'm going to set some of these aside to get them off my cutting board. And so I rinsed them off, and then I'm going to go ahead and go around this way to get the stem out. I'll grab that out, and then I'm going to cut it in half, and I'm going to get the rest of the stem and the seeds out. And then I'm going to rinse this off at the sink. I'm going to just kind of cut this along this way. They smell very good. A nice flavor. Not too spicy though. Some of them are, so it kind of depends on which ones you pick out. But the ones I got are not too spicy, but have a lot of flavor. So I'm just going to dice it up to this size. And I'm going to continue to dice up the rest of my poblano chilies. I'll be back shortly. We have quite a bit of poblano chilies. So I'm going to set that aside, and then I'm going to get to the gray squash in just a minute. But I'm going to get to green chilies. So you can check out my other video on how to roast green chilies on the barbecue. So I got these out of the freezer, let them set a little while, and the skin just comes right off, really easy. And these smell delicious. So we did a huge bag of them. All right, I'm not going to put in as many as I did on the poblano chilies. So I got, let's see how many I have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I got 5 of these. So I'm just going to continue taking the skin off, and then I'll dice it up. Okay, so I opened up this one, and there's some seeds. So I'm going to use the back of my knife. Just get out a lot of the seeds. So you don't need all the seeds in there. Like this one didn't have that many. Okay, so I have a total of 6 of these. I'm going to go ahead and dice up 3, and then I'll go ahead and get the skin off the others and dice up those. So I'm just going to go cut it this way. And then I'm going to go ahead and kind of maybe just spin this around and cut it this way so that they're diced up. Okay. And then I'll continue to do the same thing with the other ones. I have a generous amount of peppers, and if you don't like that many peppers, then that's fine. You don't have to use that many. But I do like a lot of peppers. And if there's a little bit of the seeds left behind, that's fine, because this is going to be cooking for a few hours, so it'll soften them up for sure. So now I'm going to cut up my Mexican gray squash. I'm going to take the end off, and then the little end off here. And this does take, because it's squash, it takes a little bit longer to cook, so I'm going to try to cut it pretty small so it doesn't take too awfully long. I'm going to do this. Hope everybody's having a good day today. So once I get it in a circle, then I'm just going to quarter it. I'm going to set this aside, and then this should make it I can get a few of these and stack them and do it this way to save some time. This should save some time cooking because they're in bite-sized pieces and make it easier to eat as well. And some people, like I mentioned earlier, some people do not put this squash into pozole, but I tried it once and I really liked it, and so I'm always going to probably add it if I can find this type of squash. You can't always find it. It might not be the season, or maybe it's even all sold out. So I'm going to continue to cut it up, and I have this other big one, and I will see you in just a few. Okay, so the next step is a white onion. And I'm going to probably use 3 or 4 white onions because I'm going to make a large amount. I'm going to take the skin off here, rinse it. And then some of this onion, I'm probably going to do 3 or 4 white onions, but probably one of the onions I'm just going to set aside in a container and put it in the fridge because I will probably sprinkle some raw white onion on top when I serve it. So this looks like, here's like 2 white onions. I think 3 is going to be more than enough because I should have like an entire onion. These are big onions. I should have an entire onion to garnish the pozole with. Okay, so I'm just going to continue to dice up these onions. So I was able to find some fresh cilantro at the store, which I was pretty happy about because I was going to just use the dried stuff, but this looks really good. So I'm going to take some of this and wash it up. You should only really wash up how much you need, and then just wash it up as you need it because otherwise it will get kind of mushy and stuff like that. So I think that's probably enough. Because when it's fresh, it's really strong. I don't think I need the entire bag. I'm just going to cut the rest of this aside. And I'm going to rinse this off really well. Whoops. There you go. Now you can see. This smells very good. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and I think it's just as easy to just pinch this off. Just like this off the stem. It must be cilantro season because this is just really just a lot of aroma to it. It smells so delicious. This is going to make a huge difference. A lot of times I cannot find really good cilantro in the store, so I just use the dried out stuff that you get in the spice department. Alright, so I'm going to continue to do this and we'll see how much I have. The cilantro is already, I took it off the little stem, and now I'm going to take a chef's knife and I'm just going to go ahead and chop it up. And if it all doesn't get chopped completely, that's okay. I'm just trying to make it a little bit smaller because it's going to cook for a few hours, so it will just kind of, the taste will get everywhere in the stew, even if it's not super small. And it's even smelling better as I chop it up. It's really releasing the flavor. So that's good. Okay, so I was going to go ahead and use minced garlic, and then I decided, you know what? I got fresh cilantro. I think I should use fresh garlic since I did have some that looked like it was pretty good still. So I went ahead and just opened it up. I did that off camera. And now there's like a skin around it. So what you want to do is you want to take the end of each part of the garlic, each end, and then what you do is you peel it like that. And I'm going to get a bowl so I have somewhere to go with this garlic. Alright, trying to get the cilantro out of the way. It's all going in the same pot, so it doesn't matter if we have a little bit of cilantro behind, just trying to make sure there's no skins. And here is kind of a trick. Some people have garlic presses, then you have to clean the garlic press, and it works well. Or you could put it in your little miniature food processor, which I've done too before, but then you have to clean the food processor. This knife is pretty easy to clean. So what I like to do sometimes is just, unless I have a whole bunch, then I might use my food processor. It'll be worth it. But you just kind of go ahead and smash it like this. I'll probably do a couple. And then you just go ahead and start cutting it. Just kind of rock it back and forth until it minces up. Okay, it's pretty simple. I'm going to put this here. I'm going to do another one just so people can get the idea. So again, I'm kind of putting it in the middle. I'm pressing it down. You can kind of hear that, I think. Do like 2. And then just start cutting it up this way. And then this way. And then you have pretty quickly minced garlic. Not as quick as in the jar. But if you really want the fresh garlic, this is a pretty easy way of doing it without creating too much of a mess. All right, so I'm going to continue with my minced garlic, and I'll be back. So there's my garlic. And by the way, here's my onions that I'm going to just stick in the fridge to use as garnish later on top of the pozole. So I'll stick that away. And the next thing we're going to do is the green onions, just because I already have my cutting board out. I'm not going to need them till later. So we'll wash up the green onions, and I already washed up two of these. So 2 of this size of bundles of green onions here. So those have been washed and ready to go. So trying to have everybody see what I'm doing, and my camera's at the wrong angle. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to wash up these green onions. And when cooking with green onions, you want to always add the green onions last. The only reason I'm doing it now, like I said, I got my colander out, my strainer, I have my cutting board and my knives all out. So I'm going to just cut it up and then I'll put it in the fridge. And when I'm ready to add it, it'll be ready to go. I like to have everything ready to go, and then all I have to do is just cook and throw everything together. Because if you try to go ahead and do it while you're going along, it just slows you down. It's nice just to have everything ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm going to rinse this cutting board off before I start, because I do have a lot of. So I'm going to grab a few of these green onions, because you can definitely cut up several at a time. Okay, I'm just going to get trying to line it up. Get the ends off, and then cut off my ends here. Anything that just looks like it's not perfect, I'm going to just cut off. Sorry, I mean to screech everything. And then I'm just gonna cut it up and put it right into a container for the fridge for later. Okay, so I'm just going to continue to cut up green onions, and then we'll go to a generous amount of green onions that I'm going to set aside in the fridge to add later. And now I'm going to get this stuff cleaned up, and it's time to cut up the pork. Here is my pork loin. I'm going to pour the juice out into the sink as best as I can. There'll probably still be some juice here. Have to kind of do that. And I hope this is nice and tender. I think it will be. Oh, there goes the juice I was trying to avoid by pouring it out into the sink as best as I could. So this pork loin originally was like literally twice the size when I got it from the store, and then I cut it in half and we vacuum sealed it so that we got 2 meals out of it. Otherwise it would have just been way too much for what I need. Okay, so now we're going to start dicing it up. So when you have a big pork loin like this, as far as I'm concerned, the easiest way to cut this up is just start slicing it. And it appears to be tender. There's a little bit of fat. That's okay. We can trim up some of that away. Some of it we'll just leave because it'll help it actually fry up. But it appears to be fairly tender, which is a good thing. This to me is like the hardest part. Although it's really not hard, but it's just like you have to do that, you cut it all up, and you have to get your cutting board and your knife, everything really clean. And I did clean up some of the vegetable stuff. So if you clean up, you know, when you're doing a big meal like this, if you can clean up as you go along, it's not so overwhelming in the end. And then you can just sit down and enjoy your meal without a huge mess at the end. So it's the summer now. It's almost fall, but this is really, even in the summer, it's quite delicious, but it sure is nice when on a cold winter day, that's for sure. So I'm just going to take some of this fat off. Like I said, I'm not going to take every ounce off, but I'm going to take some of this off. And then I'm going to just start dicing this up. I'll do a little in front of the camera, and then I'll turn it off so you don't have to sit and watch me dice up every bit of this pork. I want to give you an idea of the size. So I'm going to separate it out in my hand a little so you can see. So that's a good size to go for. And I'll be back shortly. Now we are ready to do the next step. So I have this much pork. It's coming over the top. And now I'm going to try to figure out how much hominy do I need. I need the same amount of hominy as I do pork to make it come out correct. So I'm going to open up the first can. And when you're doing hominy to make pozole, you need to keep all the juices. So all those juices, they need to, whoops. Wonderful, I spilled it. Now I lost some of the juices. I was trying to show you. You need to keep the juices. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and go like this. And I'm a messy cook. If you watch my channel, you'll know that. And I'm going to just put the juices into the pot because that's going to end up being the broth. Pretty much. I will have to add some water. All right, just trying to clean up my mess a little here. So that's one can. And I'm trying to, like I said, get it to where it's almost the same as this pork. So I definitely need another can for sure. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing, and then we'll see where we're at. Okay, so here it ended up being 3 cans of hominy. And like I said, I put the juice in the pot. This is the brand that I'm using today. There's some other brands out there that are also really good. So if you look, I'm about pretty even. I got maybe a little bit more hominy, but it's so delicious, that's fine with me. No problem. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my very large pot, which I call Big Blue, over at the stove. And I'm going to now put my hominy in here. Just do it right here. I just want to make sure. I was using the bowl mostly as a measuring device. So I'm going to start heating that up. And before I do that, though, I'm going to go ahead and add, since I'm right here, this is very good. Makes everything taste really, it's not overly spicy. I'm going to put 2 cans of this into this pot. So when it starts going, you can start absorbing all the flavors together. This has a little bit of tomato in it too. Let's see. I'm going to read you the ingredients. Tomato paste, water, jalapeno, onion, garlic, salt, and spices. I don't know what the spices are, but it smells delicious. I think this is going to be enough. I do have another one of these little cans, so I might taste test it halfway through. If I end up adding another one, I will let everybody know. But right now I'm just going to start it off with the 2 cans and see how that goes. And these are like very, I think they only come in the 7 3/4 ounces. Okay. Those aren't that hard to find, believe it or not. I thought they were, but then I noticed that I was buying it at one store, and then I found them at other stores too. And I'm going to also put the cilantro in here, so everything can really start marinating together. And so I will meet you at the stovetop. Trying to adjust my camera. Oh, all right. Now, I forgot to tell you that I'm going to add some red chili sauce. Now you can get the red chili sauce from the dehydrated chilies and cook it down, and I have a video on how to do that. But today I'm going to go ahead and just pour in, and this is mild, so I mostly want it for the flavor. I'm going to pour some of this in. Not too much, but possibly the rest of this, probably the rest of this jar here. I didn't have a lot. It was not a complete jar. So probably maybe, I'm thinking it's about a 1/2 cup maybe. And I'm going to go ahead and stir all this up. And I'm going to add some oregano, Mexican oregano, not the type that you use in Italian food, and some cumin. Garlic powder and some onion powder. You know what? I think I need more oregano. I don't think I have enough. Sometimes I could just do it by just the way it looks and smells, and I'll taste it probably along the way just to see where we're at. Okay, I'm going to put some oil in my cast iron skillet. And the first thing I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start cooking up the vegetables. And I'm going to start with the squash, the gray Mexican squash, because it takes longer to cook. And I'm probably going to cook it up, and then I'm going to move it to the big pot, and then I'll cook up the rest of my stuff and then move it over. So we'll just let this get hot, and then we'll start cooking. Okay, it's time to add the squash. This is nice and hot. Careful not to get burned. So we're going to go ahead and brown this squash. As you can see, it's getting a nice brown on it. So we kind of want it all to look like that. So we'll continue to cook it for a little bit longer. We can all get a nice brown. Okay, so it looks like this is done the way I want it. This will just give it, by having it give a brown, it's going to give it a different flavor and a different texture in the soup. It's nice to have different textures in the soup. So I'm just going to take a spoon like this and start bringing it into, it'll get the oil out of the oil and drip out, and then just put it into the pot. Okay, so plenty of oil in here. Make sure I get some of this stuff out. And I'm going to go ahead and do the poblano chilies and the green chilies and do that next. Turn the heat back up. I reduced the heat a minute ago. Still pretty hot. The aroma is wonderful. I'll continue to cook this down a bit. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some of my white onion to these chilies. And I'm going to add some of my garlic to the chilies. And the rest I'm going to save to go along with the pork. When I cook the pork. Just have to stir this all in. So, it's starting to get a really good brown on the green chili. I'm going to reduce the heat a little. In fact, I'm going to turn it off because I'm almost ready to pull this. I just want to make sure they all have a nice brown on them. And I will transfer this into the big pot again. I add some oil, and I'm going to add the pork into the frying pan, but I'm not going to do all of it because I really want to put a nice brown on it. So I'm going to do about half now and then half later. And once I get it cooked, then I'll transfer it into the pot, and then I'll cook some more. Of course, the pan has been seasoned already with the green chili, so that's nice. I'm going to wash my hands. Okay, I'm stirring this around, and I'm going to add some of my onion. I'm going to leave a little bit for the rest of the pork. Some of my onion, some of my garlic. Okay, so this meat is looking good, nice and brown, and I'm going to transfer it to my very large pot, and then I will cook up the rest of the pork and onions and garlic the same way and add it to this pot. Now I've put the rest of the pork in here, and I'm stirring this up, and it smells absolutely delicious, but I'm going to add some water because there's not enough liquid to go ahead and cook this. So let's see how much we need. This is around 8 ounces. I'm just kind of guessing. I just want the water level to be over the top, but not be swimming in it, but just over the top. So I'm going to add a little bit more water. Okay, so I added enough water to just kind of have everything under the water so that it continues to cook nicely. I'm kind of bringing it, or it already is actually, bringing it to a boil. And then what I'm going to do, once it actually starts to boil, I'm going to reduce the heat to simmer. I'm just going to let it get a little bit hotter. And if some of the water evaporates off, that's fine. So this is going to probably cook for about 3, maybe 4 hours, 3.5 to 4, depending. And I'm going to reduce the heat now. I feel like I can reduce it now to simmer, and I'm going to cover it up, and it does need to be stirred occasionally, okay, and if need be, some water added to it. So I am anxious to go ahead and see how this comes out because it smells absolutely delicious, and I can't wait to try it. See you soon. Okay, now it is time to taste test the pozole. I can't wait. It smells so good in my house. Okay, so we have here, trying to get a good view here. So I got my pozole, and then there's some lime and some onion and some radishes. So I'm going to put some white onion. I'm going to sprinkle that on top of mine. And then I'm going to take a little bit of lime, and I'm going to put it, squeeze it on here. Okay, and then I'm going to take a few little, these are radishes, put them in. Okay, time to taste test it. And the house smells absolutely delicious. I'm sure I mentioned that a few times already, but it does smell really good in here. Okay. Absolutely delicious. I cannot wait to sit down, put up my feet, and enjoy this meal. The pork is extremely tender, and the hominy is absolutely delicious, and all the blends of the peppers, they're not too spicy, So if you wanted it really hot, you could add it if you wanted to, but it's just a wonderful blend with the green peppers, the little poblanos, and all the onions I put in there. And it's just so delicious. I can't wait, like I said, to sit down and just enjoy this. Thank you for watching. For those of you who subscribe to my channel, I really appreciate it. And those of you who do not, it is free. Please like this video and have a wonderful evening, and I hope you try some pozole. Thank you for watching.